Okay, Ozonics Killerwinds podcast back again. I'm Cole Tanner.
I'm Nick Simon.
Today we have got special guest. We have got Donnie Monroe. Donnie, thanks for being with us today. I really appreciate it, man.
Yeah, glad to be here.
I think we can say without a shadow of a doubt, Donnie has shot a lot bigger bucks than you and me.
Yes, combined. Yeah.
Combined over the last couple of years, however you want to make the equation.
Yep.
He shot some absolute crankers.
Oh yeah.
Donnie, like I said, it's been kind of cool. I've gotten a chance to know you over the however many years. Like I said, I've been at Ozonics since 2016, and then just kind of met you along the way. And it's kind of funny how sometimes you just meet guys, and part of it is they're just really good dudes like Donnie, but then part of it is that they just have like a real passion for hunting.
Exactly.
And then the other part of it is they just really see how Ozonics helps in that all that and kind of brings it all together.
Yep.
And I think that really is why I really like Donnie.
Yeah.
Because like I said, a diehard Ozonics guy and shoots some absolute crankers.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, I've been really fortunate and been blessed to, been in and been able to harvest some really good animals. And
Yeah.
Obviously a lot of hard work comes into that. And when I first came up and learning through hard knocks and trying different things and
Yep.
reading a lot of books, watching a lot of old school VHS tapes and
Yeah.
just anything I could do to pull in any knowledge to help me.
Absolutely.
Where are you located right now?
Currently I'm in Kansas.
Kansas, okay.
Yeah, I'm originally from Indiana though.
Okay.
Okay.
That's probably what actually helped me be the hunter I am today, just because it was really tough hunting back there.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so the thing that I always remember about you, Donnie, is that it was a buck you shot a few years ago that you self-filmed, from what I understand, right? That you were, I don't know, you have to correct me if I'm wrong, but were you like getting your hair cut or something, or you were in town and your cell cams went off and it was like, hey, I got this buck on camera like right now, you know what I mean? And you went out there and self-filmed it.
Kind of, sort of. That's the way it went. So I had hunted all week, and it was frigid that week, horrible. I was on vacation, and like multiple days where it didn't get above 15 degrees as an ambient temperature. I was hunting, I think 3 of the days I hunted without even going back in. I was out all day.
Oh, yeah.
I was determined to kill this buck. And anyway, I saw him the Saturday morning, actually, which Sunday was the last of my vacation. So I saw him that Saturday morning, and he was about 400 yards away, and he was going across a field. I watched him work a scrape. It was really exciting, but it didn't end up happening. And then I had to go back to work on Monday.
Mm-hmm.
But the good thing is I had a doctor's appointment.
Okay,
and
that's
it was
what
just
it was.
a follow-up. And the crazy thing is luckily it was in the town that I lived in. Otherwise, and there's only matter of fact, it's not even there anymore. It's just one office that was there, and it just happened to be that day.
Yeah.
And I was sitting there, and I was waiting to go back, and my phone dings, and I look, and I'm like, "You got to be kidding me!" And he was in my timber.
Oh, man.
And I'm thinking he's in there checking does, and if he's in there, he's going to lay down close, and he's going to get up that evening. And he's going to go try to get a bite to eat my food plot, I almost guarantee it, and head north. And so I went back and I told the doctor, I'm like, look, I've got a date tonight. We got to make this really fast. And I
You're like, I got someplace I got to be.
That's right, yeah. And anyway, so she said, we can reschedule this. I said, no, if you make it quick, we can do it. And anyway, she did it, and I flew home, which I lived just a few miles away, and got ready and got out there, and I literally was in the stand for probably 45 minutes before he showed up.
Isn't that insane?
That's awesome.
Yeah, and here's the deal too. The wind was questionable then, and I'm sure you've probably seen my video on that.
Oh, yeah.
That I actually talk about it afterwards. But the wind was actually south-southeast, which is actually kind of blowing where he came from. And had I not had Ozonics, had I not been using a calming scent, that combination, I would have probably never went in, just because of fear of spooking him. And, luckily having that gave me that confidence, and I went for it and was able to capitalize on it.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
But yeah, everything I do is self-filming.
Isn't that something?
Yeah.
Man, that is
I
tough.
love
It's tough.
I love the task and just the challenge of it,
Yep,
Yeah, no,
yes.
it is an absolute challenge. That's the best way you can put it.
It's a big time challenge.
Yeah, that's kind of one thing that's different about Nick and I is like I said, I used to be a videographer years ago, and I really enjoyed doing it. But when I got done, and when I got to, because when you're being a full time videographer, you spend a lot of time hunting, where you're holding the camera.
Yeah, exactly.
And so, when I had an opportunity to go hunting for myself, I just really wanted to just go.
Right.
I barely get myself to bring my cell phone. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I was like,
yeah.
I don't want anything to do with anything that's got a red button on it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Like, I was like, I don't want anything to do.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of what has really carried on for me. I just don't do much filming. I've done more lately because it's fun to get stuff with the kids. Well, there's a raccoon or a possum, and
Yeah.
Jet thinks it's super cool. But you really enjoy self-filming.
Yeah, I love it. It's a lot of fun, I think.
Sometimes I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Like, golly, it's enough to take out there just to take out there.
Yeah.
And then to bring all the gear and the batteries and the arms. And then if you're hunting on public land, you got to be cognizant of what you're doing.
Yeah.
It's just, and then to get it, and then to the testament, I think, if a person that's never done self-filming, is it's one thing to bring all the gear, but then it's another thing to get it in your window.
Yeah.
You're trying to move the camera, you're trying to range, you're trying to draw, and just to get it to all, really to have all those stars align.
Yeah.
Golly.
Yeah, it's just to me it's so satisfying to know that you put in all that work and all that extra effort, and then you get home and you can go back, plug it into the
Watch
computer
it.
and go back and watch it. That is so satisfying to me, and that's why I do it. I just think it's so fun.
So Donnie, when it comes to that, and I know we're getting off subject here, but self-filming. So let's say, for example, that night with that buck, because we could probably put that footage up here.
Yeah.
You can find it on YouTube. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I said, I know I've watched it a whole ton of times. If that buck wouldn't have stopped where he did and wouldn't have been in where that camera was pointed and you couldn't have got him on camera, would you have not shot?
Oh, as far as for that video, no, I would not have shot.
Yeah.
I was dedicated to getting that. I mean,
That's so crazy because I would say without a shadow of a doubt, I'm shooting anyway. You know what I mean? It's so that's I'll tell you what, kudos to you because I don't know if I'd be able to hold back.
Yeah.
God.
Yeah, and I passed him the year before as a 175-inch 4-year-old.
Jeez,
And I only had 43 acres, and I was, doing everything I could, which goes back to another thing of why I like to self-film, and that is I don't want to have to worry about who's coming with me and when they're going to be there, and because I'm more of a tactician now when it comes to hunting. I mean, I like to try to really know when they're going to be there and basically pounce when the time's right.
Yeah.
Yep.
I don't go to just sit and watch. I mean, when I go in to kill.
Yep.
That doesn't mean it's always going to happen, obviously, but I'm going to do everything I can to minimize the pressure, and I don't want anybody else really in the stand with me when I'm doing that. I enjoy the camaraderie, but I'm out to do a job.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So I kind of had a list of the way this was going to go, but it's kind of going to go the exact opposite. I think I'm just going to go with where we're at in the conversation. So when you talk about that, when you talk about being a tactician, because like I said, that's kind of one of the things that I think that Nick and I go through. And Nick, you've kind of watched me do that since you've gotten to know me is, I'm the type of person that for me, it's all about quantity. I really like to try to pile them up. You know what I mean? I love shooting does. Not that I don't want to shoot a buck.
Yeah.
But I just love hunting so much.
Right.
And I don't have thousands and thousands of acres or even hundreds of acres.
Yeah.
Right. So I do also do some depredation hunting. Right. So I'm always juggling and balancing this, trying to get out there and do the service to the farmer that I'm trying to help get some does killed. And then I really like to kill does on top of it. But that that equates to pressure.
Yeah, 100%.
Do you follow me?
Does. Yep.
And so I kind of feel like what you're describing, Donnie, is a little bit of what is on the opposite side of that, right? Where you're being a tactician, you're being very careful about when you go in, and less about maybe the quantity of deer that you maybe kill or the quantity of time that you stay in on a spot, but more about the quality of the deer and the quality of the time to go in there and to kill. So that's a really big statement to ask you. You know, when you talk about being a tactician and you talk about really going in there to do a job, what do you do differently? And what does that really mean when it comes to like really using an Ozonics? You follow me? Like, what does that equate to? Like you said earlier, you kind of hunted on an iffy wind. If you have that buck in there and you've waited and it's time, will you go in on really iffy winds? Or if it's, you kind of look at it like, oh, okay, if it's a certain percentage, if I'm right on the edge of it, or how does that work? What does that look like? Like, how does that actually equate itself?
Yeah. Well, as a matter of fact, so in 22, I had everything set up for this deer. And this deer was, by the way, 230 inches. So, I mean, you know, this is something incredible. And anyway, I had everything set up. I was ready to go with my bow. And I wasn't getting the wind that I needed.
Yeah.
And where he was at, I didn't have many options. Like, and the wind, it was kind of in this bowl, and then the river wrapped around this section, and he was staying right in it.
Yeah.
And it was perfect for him, but really tough for me unless I had a north wind, some type of north wind. And I wasn't getting it, and the problem was this deer was actually crossing and going, I mean, just a short jaunt, and he was in the neighbor's bean field. Well, I knew that they knew about him. And,
yeah, deer like that. Deer like that don't.
Out and,
yeah.
Yeah. So I made a quick decision of, okay, well, what do I do? You know, how can I put him on the ground? Because I felt like if he made it to Saturday, there's a good chance somebody's going to kill him, and it might not be me.
Mm-hmm.
So, being the situation, I decided, okay, since it's in a bowl, if I get up higher, sometimes the wind currents are different. And if I do that, it's going to be tough for me. I didn't know how close I would be able to get with my bow.
Mm-hmm.
So I decided at that time on Monday that I was going to go in with my muzzleloader. And I haven't killed a deer with a muzzleloader since 2007. Almost everything I do is with archery equipment. But this deer is obviously super special.
Yep.
And I wanted to do everything I could because I'm not one of those that are too proud. I preferred a bow hunt, and I like the challenge of the bow hunt.
Yep.
But if I'm not going to be dumb, I want that deer, and I don't want my neighbor putting his hands around him. I want to do it.
Yeah.
So I made the decision. I thought, okay, I'm going to slip in with my quiet cat. I'm going to get up to this area, and I don't know exactly what it looks like up there because I wasn't planning on this. I was going to be more patient to slip in. But what gave me the confidence is having the Ozonics, having the raw calming scent, that combination. I use it all the time. That gave me the confidence to slip in there, and if the wind's switching, if it swirls and gets down in there, maybe it's enough that it won't spook him. And I thought, it's to his advantage where he's coming out right there, and it's a pinch, and I'm like, he's likely gonna move in daylight. It's a red moon, it's the weather, we had a little bit of a drop in temperature, so I was just gonna get up high, check to see if the wind currents were different, have the Ozonics, going, and just praying that, he's not going to catch my wind. And again, if I didn't have the Ozonics, I wouldn't have never done it.
Right.
I just have that much confidence in it because I've seen it work too many times.
Right.
And sure enough, got in there, and I was actually able to get within 35 yards of where I knew he would come out. But you don't, when you don't know and you're trying to slip in, he's bedding close. You're not going to go in there and make a bunch of noise. I literally sat down on a chair, and I'm all about, using Novik stands, and I love them. But in this situation, it was go in with a little chair, and I put my camera arm on the side of a big tree, and I made myself a little spot, cleared off a little bit, and I had a very narrow shooting window and was able to capitalize on that. But again, if I wouldn't have been using Ozonics, I would have never went in for that.
Isn't that something?
So now, after doing that, that's my second buck over 200 inches. And both of those two bucks were in questionable wins. Actually, wins for their favorite.
All right.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's definition of a killer win right there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. When a buck, when the wind is in his favor, and he's going to walk out because he can smell what's in front of him, it's a killer wind.
Yep, exactly.
You know what I mean?
Oh.
Yeah, like you said, it's interesting because, I think one of the things that's interesting is we're in the middle of the summer, but it's crazy. August is right around the corner, and then it's September, and for some people, September, it's time to go.
It's go time.
So I think the one thing that, even Nick and I were talking about today is we've got cams out, and we've got mineral out, and we've got cams on public spots. But we've kind of let a lot of cams soak now for 3-4 weeks, cell cams that we just kind of put in, we don't have to mess with. But now batteries are starting to get low and minerals kind of running out. You want to get in there and put some more trophy rock out here or there, da-da-da-da-da. But one of the things I think that I think we're right at the beginning of, and I think a lot of people go through this same type of kind of sequence and process as the summer starts to get towards the end and hunting season starts to just days get closer and closer, is pressure.
Yep.
Like I think we look at our cameras now, and all the cameras, those bucks are just moving where they want. They feel pretty relaxed. They're not walking out there. They're not smelling anything abnormal.
100%.
They're just doing what they do.
Yep.
They want to come out down by the river. They want to come up by the ski hill. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
They come out down by the thermal hub. We got all these stupid nicknames for all these spots. Yeah. Nick wants to call everything Johnson. Scrape Johnson, Rub Johnson, Thicket Johnson. But I don't like that, so we don't call them those things.
Put me on blast here.
Yeah, it's a Wisconsin thing. But Kinnickinnick River spot. No, I'm just kidding. No, but what it equates to is pressure, right?
Yeah,
it all adds up to pressure. So for you, Donnie, as the season goes on, like you were talking about earlier, you're trying to really stay out as much as you can until you get that buck on the hoof during the day. You try to stay out till a red moon. What are you looking at? What are those things? Like I said, you talk about like not just going out there to be out there. So you're trying to stay out as much as you can and then really be there when it's right. Is that what you're describing?
Yeah. Now, I don't go out all the time, but I do, I've got food plots and supplemental feeding and, and I go back, generally about once a week and refill the feeder. And, but when I do that, I don't go all over the place. I have a quiet cat. I've got a bad boy buggy, which are both electric. So I can slip in, do what I need to do. I've got a trailer for my quiet cat if I just have a few bags, and then I've got a little basket on the back I can slip in with it. Or if I've got a heavier haul, then I'll take the bad boy buggy, but I'll slip in there quiet. I run the same path. I get in there, do what I'm doing, and get out. And as long as you're not bumping them out of their bed and they see you, they're okay with that. They don't really, in my opinion, and what I've found, it's not as much of a threat. Now, do I do it every day? No. That's not a good thing, I don't think, because I think that you're going to have them where they're not going to want to move in daylight. But they know what I'm doing. I'm in there and I'm putting some feed out, or, if I'm going back there with the tractor, I'm putting in a food plot that they're utilizing. So I think they get that. When you're just meandering all over the place and you're bumping deer all the time and you've got them moving, that's when things change. A lot of people think, well, especially farmers or hunters that aren't real serious, it don't hurt them deer. But okay, you might see those does because they'll just circle around and come right back. Young bucks, not as big of a deal, but mature bucks, you bump them out of their bed a few times. Obviously, they know it's secure, but they just don't like it. And in my opinion, they just don't. They're not going to stay there and really kind of reside right there.
Yeah.
So I try to be patient. Now, I like, just like anybody, I like to get summer velvet footage. It kind of goes in with my, videography and, filming
absolutely.
hunts and all. But I use, Athlon spotting scope and a phone scope that
Stay
I attach to it. I'm 400 plus yards.
Right.
Zooming in to get that. But I don't do that all the time either. And the wind's got to be right. And, where I'm at, and there's bean fields, I'm still running my Ozonics because you don't know what's going to circle behind you that can ruin everything, And like this new farm it attaches to the 43 that we've owned. We just recently bought a house and with 89 acres. So now we've got 132 acres here, so I can really start to manage. But it's kind of set up where to get in there to kill them in those areas, you're right in the middle. So I'm really going to have everything together to really capitalize and killing him without having, a ton of deer win me and just kind of blow the hunt up.
Right.
But I can promise you, I'll be having my Ozonics working when I do go in for the kill because there's deer all over and they're going to come from different directions. So I'm going to do everything I can to kind of protect my backside when I'm going in and I feel like I'm in the right tree in the right section to actually kill him.
Yep.
Definitely.
Yeah, no, it's really interesting to hear. And like you said, I think we're coming into this time of year where pressure gets to be a thing. I always tell a story, and I think it really is applicable to what you're describing, Donnie, is I always tell guys, think about your piece that you hunt as a clear glass of water. At the beginning of the season, we all have a clear glass of water. But as the season goes on, whether that's velvet scouting or checking trail cams or setting stands or just going out there to be out there because you want to be out there, every time that you step foot on there, you're taking a little drop of food coloring, little red dye, and you're just dropping it in that glass. And as the season goes on, every time you're dropping it. And before you know it, it's not clear anymore.
Yeah.
Right? It looks like Kool-Aid.
Yeah, exactly.
And it takes a long time to get back to clear again.
Yep.
You follow me?
Yep.
We always talk about that, when you're out there, whether it's, when you're on your bike or you're checking the camera, you eventually aren't there. They can't see you, they can't hear you, but your odor stays.
Yeah.
Your smell stays long after you're gone. It's not a coincidence. I mean, we've all seen it. You go in there, you fill a feeder, you put new mineral out, you check a camera, and it's not ironic that those deer are all over that thing. They're like, whoa, wait a second.
Yeah, what the heck is
What
this?
is that?
Yeah.
That smells like gasoline. That smells like Casey's. Well, I don't know Casey's because they don't like pizza like I do. But you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
They're just
no,
like, something's
100%.
not right.
Yeah.
They smell something. They know it's not right. We're not there anymore, but our odor is left behind.
Yeah, without a doubt.
And that's where, again, that Ozonics can really come in handy. It's really refreshing, Donnie, to hear you talk about using your Ozonics in the summertime. You've been talking to some of the guys from Midwest Whitetail. They're doing the same thing.
Yeah.
Using an Ozonics to help eliminate your odor.
Yeah.
Try to help to eliminate or reduce the pressure that we're putting on. Instead of a huge, big drop of red, maybe it's a half a drop.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
You're just giving yourself more time, right? It's like it's a wave on the lake. We just want to try to minimize the wave. Let's keep it just calm.
No, 100%.
And I think that's where an Ozonics
Think
really
about
can
it.
come in handy.
If you're out there, trying to watch a bean field, and it's getting close to dark, and when deer are going to start moving, and then all of a sudden, a buck's maybe getting ready to step out, and a doe slips in behind you, and you have no idea you don't have anything going, and she starts blowing and carrying on. It just kind of ruins the whole thing. And then obviously when they're doing that, it just heightens their awareness and makes them a little more eager. And then obviously with those mature does, it seems like if they bust you once and you go to try to do that again, they're likely going to be looking for you again. So you got to be really mindful of that and do everything you can to minimize that impact that you're making.
Yeah.
And make them kind of just do their natural thing that they want to do and feel comfortable, because that's when they will come out in daylight. You know?
Well, and I think the thing too that you said there that I really hang my hat on is something that Scott Elrod talks a lot about, the owner of Ozonics. He said this to me years ago, and it's funny, I never really thought about it, and I was like, gosh, that's so true. When we go hunting, we're affecting an animal's behavior.
Right.
When you get an animal on the upwind side and you see, whether it's a big mature doe or a buck that you're looking to shoot, whatever it is, just a coyote walking across the field, when they're on the upwind side, that's just their normal behavior. They walk along, they stop, they eat, they lift their nose, they look around. They just do what they do.
Yeah.
They get on your downwind side pre-ozonics, and all of a sudden, they're not the same animal. We affect their behavior. We talk a lot about how we affect their behavior during the hunting season.
Yeah.
But we can be affecting their behavior now.
Right.
We'd be affecting it July, August, September, which in turn really affects it when it matters most.
Right.
And so if we can use Ozonics to help eliminate our odor and try to affect that behavior less, and that's what I've seen myself. You're talking about, before we started, you were talking about one of your first experiences with Ozonics. That was me too. Had a big mature doe come on the downwind side, hunted with Scott, got to see it work, and then brought it back to Iowa. And I'm like, okay, we'll see if this thing there. I know just the spot.
Yeah.
Go in there, and that doe walked right by, didn't even lift.
Yeah.
I'm just like, what is going on?
Yeah.
Because that deer should have stopped, stomped, looked around, tried to find me. I was in a climber, looked around, and just blown as far as she could go.
Yeah.
And that was just the way it was. You know what I mean? Like I said, getting blown at used to be an everyday deal. Now it just hardly ever happens. Not that I say that I don't still get winded, but it's just way less.
Right. No.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, that's the thing, is nothing's 100% foolproof. But
Right.
if you can put a feather in your cap to reduce it, and there's that one doe that in a certain situation, and you got a buck coming in, and she gets by without detecting you, it's game on.
Yes.
Where, inversely, if she nails you, it could ruin everything. So, I mean, it's just, you got to, in my opinion, especially when you're really trying to target specific animals, you do everything you can to put that in your favor. And that's just like, I'm like anybody. Man, I could lay out there in a cot and just listen to everything and, not come home. I love being out there, but it's not healthy as far as from the perspective of actually trying to kill your target animal. So, what I do is I run a lot of Browning trail cameras, and I put solar panels on every one of them, and I put them in video mode. They last a long time, and I love the video mode aspect. I don't really even download, photos anymore. It's all video.
Yeah.
I look through the thumbnails, but I want the video, because when you get that picture and you only get like a few times, and you're like,
angle.
What is that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want that video so you can see when he turns his rack, and you can see what he is, or what's going on, or what direction did he come from. You can learn a lot from that, and that helps satisfy me and keeps me out of the woods.
Yeah, without a doubt.
That's the best way to put it. Because this guy right here, he's all about the satisfy, man. He is a trail cam fanatic.
I'm the same thing.
He gets super hangry if he doesn't get a trail cam photo.
Everything on video too. I totally agree with you. It's just,
well, it's nice. It's like Donnie said, to be able to see it at different angles. Because mine, just the ones I have.
Yeah.
I love tact cams, just the cameras that I've had for a long time, and they work. So I don't buy new ones. They just do photo.
Yeah.
And so I just I'm kind of stuck where it's like, I'm not want to go out there all the time and change out the card to get the other photos. So sometimes I just get like and you're like, oh, dang.
Yeah, but no, I totally agree. I think that video gives you so much more intel than just a burst of pictures, for sure.
Oh, tons.
Well, and I think one thing too that you said there, Donnie, that really resonates for me too is, and I think this is sometimes, I think, for me, I think about a long time ago as being just a novice, getting into bow hunting, was, I heard somebody say one time, a lot of times we only worry about one, but you really have to worry about them all.
Yeah.
And just like Donnie said, I've had that experience on public land. Had a great buck that I was wanting to try to get after on public ground. Doe walked directly downwind, stood there. And she stood there directly downwind, she had no idea was there. Gave me enough time to get that buck in my spot, 28 yards, boom. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And knocked him over. But the reality is that's the way it is in the summertime too. A lot of times you're only thinking about this great buck that you got on camera and you're just worried about him, but you're not doing any good if you go out there 100%. And you're blowing everything off the hillside.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you really have to worry about not just one, but you have to worry about them all during the season and out of season.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
No, 100%.
I mean, it all really adds up.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and something else that I do different than not just everybody, but kind of the new fad, I think, is all the tree saddle stuff. And I get it that you want to bounce around, and I get the concept of you want to be element of surprise. But for me, unless you're in perfect shape and you can just go in there and I want something already set up, and I want something that's set in different wind locations for different setups, because I want to be able to just slip in, slip up without creating a lot of odor.
Yep.
Get myself breathing hard, making excess noise, because I don't care who you are. When you're slipping from tree to tree, you got to cut some limbs, or you're going to really put yourself in a bind and not have the potential of making a shot when you need to, or rushing yourself and making a bad shot. So I put Novix tree stands. I've been using them for years. They're super quiet, durable, and they literally last forever. You can rebuild them. I've had some that are over 20 years old. And I put them out. I go in there when I'm kind of bothering stuff in an area anyway. I slip in. I still try to be quiet. I still try to keep my scent down. I still try to do everything that you'd want to do to minimize the impact. But I get them up early and then I leave them alone. I always keep some back, because you may have that where you see a deer cross in a certain area that you need to slip up and do a hang and hunt. I always have that. But I want multiple stands ready so I can slip in and, again, reduce my odor, reduce that impact. But when the time's right, capitalize, slip in and kill him. And to me, it's worked out good. And obviously, I mean, I've shot enough now. I think that, it's proven that I can do what I want to do, at times, and be efficient at killing these deer. So
well, that's one thing. That's kind of where
I get it.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I get it that I get the saddle concept, but for self-filming and for doing all this stuff, for me, it's, in my opinion, it's not the best method when you're trying to keep your odor down and trying to slip in undetectable.
Well, yeah, and I think that's kind of been what's been fun for Nick and I is, and again, I feel like, and again, I'm not trying to stand on my soapbox. This is just my observation on it. I feel like the 18 to 30-year-old guy, they're saddle all the way.
Yeah.
You see that with a lot of young people. It's just like whenever you talk to guys, it's like they're just so gung-ho saddle. And then I think the 30 to 45-year-old guy, I feel like it's probably 70% tree stand, 30% saddle, maybe 60-40.
Yeah.
Saddles really start to bleed into those guys too. But it's funny. I think about my evolution as a hunter. When I first started, this is way pre-Ozonics, you just went out I just had ladder stands, or then I had hang-on stands. Like I said, before Novix, Lone Wolf, I saved my money and bought a, alpha hang-on, you know what I mean? And did it. But the part of the deal is that when you got deer on the downwind side, you got winded.
Yeah.
That was what it was. That was just the way it was. It didn't matter. 100% of the time, got deer on the downwind side, I got winded. And I did all of it. We've gone into great detail about the scent control madness that I went through in my evolution and my growth as an experience as a hunter. But then one thing that really opened things up for me, I felt like, was climber tree stands. I actually started hunting out of a lone wolf climber. And I hunted out of a lone wolf climber almost exclusively for, seriously, probably close to 10 years.
Right.
I mean, I went, they said to replace those straps every 3 to 4 years. I think I was on my third set of straps. I used it.
Yeah.
I used it a lot. Now, the great thing is I could hunt what I felt right off the bat, which is what I think a lot of saddle guys like about it now, just to kind of relate it back is that a lot of guys look at it and go, well, I can hunt any wind. I can hunt the right wind on the right stand on the right day, because I can pick what side of that trail I need to be on, or what side of that grove or that field or whatever. I can just pick the right spot. You're 100% right. And for me, that was climbers all the way. I'm like, well, geez, this just opens up the possibility because I couldn't afford to have a bunch of stands.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But then the disadvantage that I noticed and I just experienced was in a climber, you're having to hunt straight trees. You can go around a branch here or there. I don't recommend it. Trying to, sift the I've done it, unfortunately, where you unhook it, bring it around the branch and buckle it back up. Not a good idea. Don't recommend doing that.
Yeah.
Right. That was even when I used to not even wear harnesses. You know what I mean? Now I'm like got lifelines up and feel like I climb Mount Everest.
Yeah.
But I think that's the thing is you got to get all sweated up. Mm-hmm. And, now, we've done it both ways. You're a real big saddle guy. But the problem is I get sweated up. I just don't know how you do it. Yeah. Not get sweated up. You know what I mean? Now, again, the nice thing about a saddle is you don't have to hunt an exactly straight tree.
Right.
But like Donnie said, it's hard to not trim stuff out.
Yeah, exactly.
And that was the other thing too. I hunted a lot of public land when I was hunting a climber. And inherently, especially in Iowa, you can't cut stuff. So then sometimes it was just, well, there it is. There's my opening. There's a big limb. There's a big branch. Can't do anything about it. There's a brush pile or whatever it is. And that's just the way it is.
Right. Yeah.
So, but like I said, I love a hang on tree stand.
Yeah.
I mean, you know me.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah.
Actually, Donnie, I don't know if you know this. I think Nick and I think we thought we invented something new, but Nick, so I like to hunt high. I like to get way up there. I like to get the part. I like to be in the part of the tree where it starts to kind of branch out and there's not like a real trunk anymore. That's where I like to get 20 plus, 25, maybe sometimes maybe 30 if I can. Well, Nick doesn't like that so much. So what he started doing is he started I would set if I already had stand set, then I would go up and set a second stand, a Novik stand. Yeah. And then he would wear his saddle. So we called it saddle standing. So he would be standing on a Novik's tree stand with a saddle on, and then he felt comfortable.
I'm telling you, it is.
Hey,
it works really good.
We posted about it, and people commented. They said they were there. The guys like, I've been doing that for years.
Yeah. No, it. I don't know. I really liked it. I don't know.
It's basically saddle standing on a really big platform.
Yeah. Well, saddle hunting on a big platform.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. Saddle hunting on a really big platform.
Yeah. No, that's exactly what it is.
I mean, if you're all about a saddle, I mean, you can still you can go in early and trim some limbs on certain trees that might be in the zone.
Right.
But you can also take a Novik stand hunt ready system and slip in and do a hang and hunt anywhere just like you can with a saddle too. But to me, that early preparation and making it so when you go out there to the woods that you don't have to exert a lot of force or a lot of physical movement to where you're building up that heat and getting that sweating going on and it just stinks everything up, and that's kind of the key element, I think, is more for the scent aspect, but also the sound and movement. I want to be in when I'm going in there to kill, I want to be stealthy. I try to slip in on my quiet cat where I can or get as close as I can and slip out. Same thing when I'm done hunting, I try to get my stuff packed up as quick as possible. And when I feel like there's an opportunity and nothing's around, I get down and get out. I mean, I don't mess around. Or if there's animals under me, I'll wait an hour if I have to until they're out of there before I slip down. So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
but it's all about protection and, leaving your footprint, and whether it's sound or scent, or them catching you. So
yeah, there's a lot to be said there. Like you said, I mean, I think we've all fallen into that trap where maybe you're a little behind, or maybe it's a little hot, maybe you're just in a hurry. You just want to get there, where you just kind of march into the woods.
Yeah.
Definitely. You just all of a sudden you just kind of get in that steady drum of a
Yep.
That doesn't sound normal, right? To a deer, to anything out there. It's just nothing walks like that,
right?
Except us. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And I mean, you and I, we go through that all the time. I mean, I'm always the guy that early bird gets the worm. I'm usually out there technically in the middle of the night.
Yeah, definitely.
I like to be early.
Yeah.
Part of it, just to Donnie's point, because I don't like to get sweated up. I mean, even like I said, when we hunt together out of a Novik stand, how many feet of paracord was that we used on that stand last year? 175 or something like that.
Yeah.
So I took a bunch of paracord around the bottom, the outside of the platform, and the outside of the seat platform, and I paracorded all around it. So that way when they shut, when I would pull it up the stand, I would pull it up the bow rope and I would set it, it wouldn't tink at all.
Yeah.
Just trying to make it as quiet as we could.
Yeah, just quiet. Deaden that sound just a little bit.
Yeah, just because, again, it all adds up to pressure.
Yeah.
You think about just pressure of us being there, but pressure of our odor, pressure of the sound, just all of it. And like you said, man, I'm always dealing with that, getting sweaty.
Yeah.
So I just try to get out there earlier and then just walk in slower. I mean, I can't tell you how many times when I used to guide in Colorado, we'd be walking into for even mule deer hunting, taking a guy into a mule deer spot. How many clients would run into the back of me because I would stop and they'd just be looking at their feet. And all of a sudden you're like, boom. You're like, hey. And you're like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm just stopping. Well, why are you stopping? I don't know. So I don't want to get sweated up. I don't want you to get sweat either. So I got all sorts of time. I woke you up 45 minutes early and they're like, oh, you did? So just slow down.
Yeah.
It is. There's something to be said about that. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'll tell you what, I feel like this is a podcast that people you could take a piece of paper and go, how to shoot bigger bucks, and just kind of listen to some of these bullet points that we're talking about. Some of these stuff that Donnie's saying, I think is really, really true.
No, 100%.
Trying to minimize pressure, trying to walk in slower. If you have the opportunity to really just, think about just being there when it's the time to kill. And if you can stay out of it, do. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Sometimes that's not possible.
Yeah.
I have a hard time with that.
Yeah, I do too.
I have a hard time not going in there and killing does when I can too.
Yeah.
But I saw that last year, right? On the one private spot, I was really trying to do a lot of depredation hunting, and the fields weren't exactly set up. It's an every other year thing, corner beans. And last year was a corn year, which made it harder. So I was a little bit more kind of pigeonholed where I could go. And so I knew that was going to add up to pressure. And we saw that over the whole fall.
Oh, yeah.
We just all of a sudden saw our buck, I don't know if I say buck movement, but bucks during the day.
Yeah, daylight movement for sure.
Was and I was like, well, it's adding up.
Yeah.
Because we just weren't seeing them. They just weren't there.
Yeah, exactly.
They just didn't like it.
And another thing too, to your point there, that was the only spot that there wasn't good daylight movement, really. If you think about it, all of our other cameras would be lighting up like crazy, and even when we were hunting, we would see a lot of good movement, but just that one spot there, after putting so much pressure, it was definitely less. I mean, we saw bucks in daylight for sure, but just not as much and as consistent as those other spots that we weren't putting so much pressure on.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, nope. That's
and I tell you, I mean, when I was younger, I shot a ton of deer. I mean, I've shot a lot of deer with a bow, and I'm like you. I love to get out and do it. But now I probably wait when I go after a doe to shoot. I wait till the end of season, after I got my buck, when things are kind of chill. And again, it goes back to pressure, and even then, I try to go in, make the kill, and get out. I just try to. I hunt very few days compared to what I used to, So it's. Yeah. I mean, I guess it's kind of ramped up a little bit now that my wife started hunting with me too, but that's a whole nother situation, and that's actually I mean, we're still tactful and we're still going after mature deer, but But it's just fun for me, that's kind of bringing the, it's cool to see her excitement. And, a couple years ago, she shot that giant that was an 8-year-old that, we got him into the decoy, and it was incredible footage. And anyway, just to watch her reaction, and I mean, I was probably more excited initially, but still it was an incredible moment. But
yeah, absolutely.
That's awesome.
Well,
I still enjoy it like anybody. I love it, but just the challenge. If you want to shoot mature bucks consistently, or at least get in the game where you have the opportunity, you got to keep the pressure off. You got to know what's going on, and do everything you can to put yourself in that situation to make it happen. And a mature buck is a different animal. I mean, they are, and they don't tolerate a lot. You can get away with more during the rut, but I still try, to do everything I can to put the odds in my favor. And scent control and utilizing ozonics, if you're not doing it, you're just hurting yourself. I can assure you. Right. You're not doing yourself favors.
Well, we talk about this a lot. I feel like one of the things that, I don't know where this really started for me when I started kind of bringing this up to people. I think it resonates for me is minimize pressure, maximize opportunity.
Yep. 100%.
I mean, that's what I feel like, Donnie, that's what you're saying over and over. Minimize pressure, maximize opportunity.
Yeah.
And if you live and die by that, and you hang your hat on that idea, okay, when I'm going to go out there, how can I minimize pressure? How can I maximize opportunity? Not only in setting my stands, but setting cameras, checking cameras, just being out there.
Yeah.
If the goal is shooting a mature whitetail, minimize pressure, maximize opportunity.
Yeah, 100%.
And
the other thing too is, oh, go ahead. Sorry. No,
go for it.
I was just saying the one other thing is, how you slip in and slip out.
Yes.
That's another critical piece of when you do go in, and that's why I don't go in too often, because there's always that opportunity, whether it's morning or evening. At one point, whether you're going in or out, you're likely going to spook something. So 100%. Be more specific of when you go in, what the wind is, do you feel like things are moving? Maybe see what the pressure is. If you get a weather front that's changing, maybe a temperature drop, or you got a storm rolling in, look for things like that could potentially put those bucks on their feet in daylight, just to give you that one more edge,
Absolutely. When you get into
all that stuff is critical.
When you get into the season, Donnie, do you ride your electric bike a lot during season, or do you walk, or how do you? Because like I said, like Nick just got an electric bike this last winter, and has been using it a lot this spring and summer.
Yeah.
And honestly, it's been really fun for me because it's not mine. So when I get to ride it, I just give her the gas, you know what I mean, or the electricity or whatever you call it. But but one of the things that I said to him that I was like, man, this could be pretty cool. And the fact of part of what I always deal with is my feet. Man, I don't know what it is. But you've watched me do it. I will specifically, especially when I get near my stands, I will walk in a certain way, and it probably looks weird because I'll walk into a spot and then I'll walk perpendicular with that tree stand, because I've told them, I'm like, you watch, dude, when a deer walks by here, they will stop. I don't know what it is. I don't know what it's about my feet, but man, they smell them.
Yeah.
And part of when I saw you really, really getting eyeing that bike, I was like, well, man, that could be handy if you could just ride the bike all the way in. I wouldn't have to worry about my stinky feet because they aren't touching the ground. It's just a rubber tire.
Right.
So for you, Donnie, are you riding your bike a lot during the fall, or are you walking?
Yes.
Or where do you balance all that?
I ride it almost all the time. Matter of fact, Sherry's got one too, and so even when we're hunting together, we ride them in. Sometimes you just because of the topography and what's going on, maybe you want to stop a little early. But I like to, if I can, ride as close to the base of the tree as I can. Another thing is, I feel like if you're on the bike, if you do spook something, it just doesn't do the same thing as literally walking out.
Right.
Yeah.
It doesn't have that same impact level. I mean, you're still bothering them, yes, but it appears to me that it just doesn't have the same impact, and you're not actually putting all that scent as you're walking in either.
See, that's the thing.
And even when you try to control it all, it's still if I've got a friend that was in canine training for drug unit, and that they'll tell you, even if you have all of your scent gone, those dogs can still track you. They still know something's up by ground disturbance. They can just tell by the leaves breaking and all that. So still, if you're riding in, it's just you're just still disturbing the ground, but you're not leaving any human scent. You're just slipping in. And it's faster to get in and out. You know what I mean? So there's no deer. Fly in, get up. Okay, you're done hunting. Everybody's in the clear. I'm out of here, and I'm out. Well, and you get to the house quicker for supper too, which I love supper.
I'll tell you what, dude. That's one thing, Donnie. You hit the nail on the head there. Like we're out couple weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, just okay, let's get these. That was probably about 3 weeks, month ago. Yeah, let's get these cams out, and we were on a couple private spots, and I don't know. I think whatever it was, I was like, well, I'll just go run down there. He's like, oh yeah, take the bike. And I always kind of feel, I'm like, oh, I don't want to take your bike. I don't want something to go wrong. You're like, no, take it, dude. I checked. I changed batteries in one. Zoomed to the other, changed batteries, pulled that camera, put a different camera up, zoomed down to the other one, cut a couple branches, and came back. And I got back to the truck. I was like, that would have taken me an hour, and I was gone for 18 minutes. Yeah. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
I'm like, it's crazy.
Yeah.
And that was just trying to not fall off. You know, if I would have like really gave her the mustard, I could have. I mean, you could just. It's crazy how much faster you can just get things done. Or if you're walking into to your point. Some of the public spots feels like the best spots are way in there, way back, where you're going to have to, it can get tricky getting out. To know that you could just have the bike and just go, okay, keep your feet off the ground and quietly just go and get out of there so fast.
Yeah, 100%.
A lot of times, sometimes our walks are 30 minutes out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So
I'll tell you another thing. I know it's not deer related and scent related, but they're awesome for turkey hunting too. I mean, you can.
Yep.
He actually
slip around really fast for turkeys.
Yeah, he actually got a trailer with his, and I should take a picture because I hunt with my kids a lot. So it ends up being a backpack full of all the warm clothing that I can think of, plus a blanket for the bottom of the blind, plus the blind, plus 2 to 3 chairs, plus the tripod,
decoys,
plus the decoys, plus a gun if it's them, and it's a bow if it's me. And it's like my pack, it's just like insane. And then he brought his bike and we started loading up this trailer, and man, I'm like, I know it's funny because when he got his bike, I'm like, man, I'm really happy for you. Like I said, Nick got a Rambo bike, you know what I mean? And they've been really cool to work with. The guys are from Iowa, which is cool. Yeah. It's been awesome. And I was like, oh yeah, that's kind of cool. And you're like, you're going to have to get one. I'm like, no, I don't think that. I at first felt like I didn't see the value in it. I'm like, oh, I think it's just like money I'll probably just spend on something else. Like, I don't think that's for me. Even like my brother-in-law, I told him, he's like, really, you got a bike? Like, yeah, I don't know. And now, man, I've been eyeing them like crazy. My wife's like, what do you want for Christmas? I was like, you're not going to believe this. But yeah, those bikes, man, they're really, really, they're pretty handy. Even when they first came out, I'm like, man, I don't get it. But I get it now.
So, when you're self-filming and you have a backpack full of gear and it's heavy, that is one more thing. I mean, walking in compared to riding. When you're riding, you're not building up that energy. You can stay cool. When you got that heavy pack, you're not carrying that heavy pack as far as physically walking. You might still have it on your back, but riding, you don't get as hot,
Yeah.
Another thing, too, that I was going to mention as far as to help with scent is I always, like, when it gets cooler and I'm wearing, like, heavier gear, when you need heavier gear, I like Osseo has, like, their pants that'll zip up all the way to the hip. So you can leave your boots on. You can wait till you get into the stand and slip those on. Your outer jacket, same deal. I wait to put that stuff on until I'm in the stand, and I'm obviously careful when I'm doing it so I don't fall out, and I have my harness on. But again, it goes back to scent control, and trying to keep yourself as scent free as possible.
It's interesting because I think that's something that, like, I've experienced buddies that put all their gear on right at the truck.
Well, yeah, that was how I was this was last year. Was the first time that I put stuff on out there.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I would always just put it all on.
Because I'm less like Donnie. I mean, I'd strap everything on my pack, except for, obviously the pants I was wearing and a super lightweight T-shirt all the way through the fall. I mean, it'd be like we get out of the truck on some days, and I would be like, well, I guess I'm going to shiver on the way in. Yeah. But it sure beats sweating.
Yeah,
and then get to the base of the tree, obviously make sure I got my harness on, and then put on everything that I could, or I felt, okay, this I can get up and not get sweated up. And then I would shimmy into a lot of my heavy stuff.
Yeah.
My bibs, my jacket, all that heavy stuff when I would get up there. I would just, and then on the way out too, and it takes a little bit more time to get it all put away, but I just didn't like to be sweated up.
Yeah, exactly.
I always walked in and out real light.
Yep.
And you can get away with, when it's just like cool, fall. You can get away with putting that stuff on at the truck, especially if you're riding in your bike.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because you're not exerting that energy, so it's not as big of a deal. So you can get away with more, but when it's cold out and you need that heavy gear, that's when you definitely want to put it on in the stand.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Well, dang, man, I feel like we got it all covered.
I think so.
Donnie, I really appreciate you coming on today, man. Like you said, it's really interesting to just hear another perspective, right?
Yep.
And like I said, take it for what it's worth. I think there's a lot of ways to skin the cat, you know what I mean? But I think what you can't argue with is success, and what you can't argue with is experience.
Yep.
And I think that's where it's good to hear another side of it. You know what I mean? And that's Donnie, why I really wanted to have you on today, and I'm glad it worked out. I'm glad it worked out. Thanks a ton, man.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad to be on here, and if anybody can take something away from it to make them better and kill the best buck of their life, this fall, I'm all about it. I mean, that just makes me happy, and I share my videos and stuff on social media, and there's neighbors around here trying to kill them. I'm not mad at them if they kill a certain buck. They're not my buck until I actually put my tag on them. But
exactly.
I try to tell them all to obviously pass the young ones and wait for them to get mature, and we all win for that. But I mean, it's exciting. It is rewarding when it all comes together, and obviously it can be frustrating and a lot of work, but it's well worth it. And if you take those, little key elements and you put it all together, you're definitely going to be more consistent with shooting mature bucks.
Yeah. All right. Well, I say we wrap it up.
Yep.
Another Killerwinds podcast in the books. Thanks for watching. Nick, Cole, Donnie, over and out.
See you next week.